So we have had a lot of people approach us about contract brewing, and I personally don't believe in it because I like my space.
Sure.
And I like my area. And I do see it as a tool in some ways. You know, when New Belgium was making white raspberry for Avery while they were getting their brew house put together, like that makes a ton of sense to me. You know what I mean? That's like, you have to continue production or whatever. But I think contract brewing, without wanting to spend the money to put in a brewery eventually, to me that like seems like very like negative, because you know I'm employing people, I'm putting the infrastructure in, I have to live and die by the decisions that I make every day. If I mess up something, you know, I mean, I have to decide whether I'm going to sell that or whether I'm going to keep it. And honestly, for me, like, I don't even like having a boss. So why would I want somebody else telling me how to make their beer in some way, shape, or form?
Sure.
In some cases, the beer being made contract is better than the person could make themselves.
With this underlying sense of responsibility to craft beer, Ashleigh sees contract brewing not just as a business decision, but as this profound statement on what brewing actually means. Right? To her, it's more than just outsourcing, right? It's really about the soul of brewing itself.
So much soul.
Now there are some positives, like I think like New Image and stuff like that, and the smaller scale, they're doing it as a way. He does, you know, Brandon Capps up there does really like having a brewery, and he's trying to make his brewery more efficient and run more, but he has no desire to grow his own brand necessarily.
Right.
It's huge. Right. But he's got people to employ.
Well, she's acknowledging these practical benefits of contract brewing. Ashleigh's heart still remains with those who invest every ounce of their energy and being into their brews.
Yeah, like it makes me really wonder what aspects specifically she thinks are lost by doing contract brewing versus kind of more of the traditional craft.
Yes.
Not necessarily all bad or all good, but for me, I kind of have the feeling a little bit that some people, not all people who are doing it, it's a negative view on the industry, and it becomes more like a brandery instead of a brewery. Like it's just somebody who maybe doesn't know anything about like us. What was it? Scott Eastwood, Clint Eastwood's kid.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like he just like they went all hard out, and like Instagram had all these like things, and it's like for America, and it's just like it's such a negative view. Like you're not even making this beer. Like what about this ties you to what you're doing? Just because you went there and like it's so douchey, sorry, but like to like go and like taste things off a tank and to not have any idea what you're talking about and to try to come up with this story and this brand, when there are so many people out there that have put the infrastructure in and who have, you know, who are positively spending their money in the community and
time.
I think it's interesting what's happening with some brands like coming together to decide that they're going to like share a space or something like that. I don't know that I feel necessarily the same way about that.
Okay, so this is where the discussion really goes deeper, right? Wider and deeper. And we really started to ponder as she went on, can beer brewed under contract still capture that essence of craft beer, right? For Ashleigh, craft beer, it's this meticulous art, right? It's her life's fingerprint. And she does go on and say that for the world. Yeah. And she shares her thoughts, and we're prompted to question the very definition of craft beer and explore the exceptions, right?
When you just have like a big, huge contract brewery, it becomes everything that we don't like about craft, right? It's a big soulless box where people get paid minimum wage and they don't even know what they're making. They're just pressing buttons, and it's just to bring out the liquid, which is like my least favorite thing on the planet. It's beer. We consume it. Like when people say product or liquid, I literally hate it so much. It like makes me angry.
Okay.
Like this is beer. I make it, you consume it, you put it in your body. Like somebody cared about it, somebody designed a recipe, somebody took care of all these steps.
Yeah.
They decided to pick the certain hops they did. They decided to put it in a brew house like this. It's just a very negative viewpoint of the idea of craft beer to me, and it just kind of gives it like a distant relationship to it.
So here's where we were like, we had to ask a question. Is there any part of contract brewing that she would be okay with?
Yeah. I mean, she wasn't in on a lot of it for herself and her own business, but maybe like a resident brewer or something could be intriguing for her to let their passions grow.
Part of the reason why this started, the craft beer movement, was because you go somewhere and you would find somebody who would drink the beer there fresh.
Yes.
So, I don't know. I think there's some negative connotation. I don't think it's all bad, but I think people who go into it just not ever wanting to have a whole brewery, I just don't know.
Yeah.
We're not involved in it. We do a little bit of I don't even call it contract brewing. Guy who works with me, Phil Joyce, has a side brand called Amalgam.
Yep.
For a long time, they were like a lot of barrel aged stuff. I'd made work for him before.
Okay.
To put into he actually won a set of Wireman overalls. If you know anything about that, if you use Wireman malt.
Oh, okay.
In your
And they send you apparel.
Yes, they will send you. It's like 80%. So he made with a sour beer.
That's awesome.
Because I made the work for him.
Okay.
It's kind of funny. It's a German company that gave him pair of overalls.
That's
even though it's a sour beer. But
Well,
it's all German.
Yeah,
He used all German ingredients.
Yeah.
But
I feel like they appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah.
He paid to put in his own tank. I had a spot. Told him it was totally cool. But he makes the beer. I don't touch it. It's more like a resident brewer than it is a contract brewery.
Okay. Yeah.
He pays me for ingredients and things like that. And honestly, I charge him the minimum that I can because I'm not trying to make money off of him.
Sure.
He's still got to be responsible.
But that's someone that you trust using your shovel or your tool, whatever it is, right? You know it's going to come back clean. It's not going to come back with an inch of mud caked on the outside of it. And I get that because I do think, to your point, there's different levels of contract. You could totally white label it, right?
Yes.
And like you said, it's this big soulless box, and who knows? It's just George Jetson behind the screen pushing a button, and it doesn't really matter. Or maybe you have some sort of relationship with them, or maybe they want to learn, because, there's a huge homebrew movement, right?
Course,
people want to get into these facilities.
Absolutely.
So there's that, or there's somebody that totally comes in and is like, help me with the supply chain, help me with the equipment, I'll pay you whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't.
There's different levels.
Absolutely.
But I get it's hard to rent out the tool if you're like, well, is it going to come back in the way that I rented it out, or is it going to come back with dents, or is it dirty, or whatever, right? It doesn't work the same.
A part we found really interesting here was, does contract brewing hit her passion of why she became a brewer, and how does she work through quality control?
Yeah, there was a lot of pieces of what she brought up that I personally hadn't even thought of. Within the quality control itself, what if the recipe's garbage? Is that her fault as the brewer? Is the other company know the recipe's garbage? Are they going to try to blame her if it doesn't come out? I never even thought about how do you juggle that in itself.
Exactly.
Part of the reason we decided to work for ourselves was that I never wanted to have anything in a tank I didn't care about.
Sure.
And just by the nature of that, I used to work at a place where we did a decent amount of contract brewing, and it seemed like it's part of the reason why we're not there anymore.
Yeah.
The ownership group that they cared about most, because that was an instant check in their pocket. So it'd be like, what can you do to bend over backwards to make this happen? Or you make it and this is not your skill set. So I was at a lager type brewery, and we were making IPA. We weren't really set up to make IPA, and yet we're trying to crawling on top of a 70 barrel tank to try and dry hop a beer.
Right.
Which who knows if this recipe was any good anyways, but they're not happy with it at the end of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So there's a little too much of that, it's a lot of taste, it's a lot of can you emulate what somebody does? If we took this beer and made it somewhere else, it wouldn't be the same thing. This is your fingerprint, this is, which is what we like about beer. I can import all my ingredients, and I import most of them, but, we don't do anything with our water except for chlorine and chloramine filter.
Okay.
Because it is our water, because it is part of the thing that makes our beer, right? There's a fingerprint to some of these things of our techniques.
Yeah.
We're about to make a beer called Timbo.
Okay.
And it's made by a brewery called Highland Park in LA.
Okay.
And Bob there is a really cool guy. He does this thing every year called Timbo Week, and he basically sends out his recipe. And he has like 6 breweries that make it.
Okay.
We're all going to serve our beers side by side.
Okay.
But already, I had a meeting with him yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, my brew house is not like anybody else's. So, like,
Right.
you have this ingredient. I think I can emulate that with a process. Is it okay if we try to emulate that ingredient with this process?
Oh, that's cool.
So, you know what I mean? These things don't necessarily translate from one place to another. And if I have a different tool or whatever, it's going to taste different, but it's emulating the process of it.
This one really hit for me especially, and Ashleigh's going to explain that just because you have time and or space, it doesn't mean you have to fill it.
Yeah, exactly. She's so good at making sure she's prioritizing her work-life balance and how to like handle the pressures of the production in itself and keep things flowing.
Right, and it's even better to listen to her explain this thought process.
I agree. I babbled all over that.
As far as like we again, in the way that we like run this slightly differently is that we don't believe there's kind of like this American idea that if it's not doing something that it's a waste.
Yes.
And I don't believe that.
Same.
I like my life the way it is, and that's why we brew 3 times in a row. And we fill 1 entire tank. So part of it is for consistency purposes, right? You're making all that beer one time.
Right.
And now I have much more beer that I can sell.
Right.
It can go into a lager tank. There's a point of diminishing return for how long you can sit in a lager tank. But it can honestly sit in a lager tank for a pretty decent amount of time.
Okay.
So there's not this rush to like continue to move things all the time.
So Ashleigh's dedication is really apparent here, and it kind of spills over into what might be some much heated advice into the next generation of brewers or people looking to get into brewing. And what advice would she offer individuals or people looking to get into brewing?
I love this.
We decided to be big from the beginning.
Okay.
It's a word of advice that I try to tell anybody who's thinking about opening a brewery is that whatever you have, you will have. Whatever you start with, you will have. Every time you think we'll just put that in later, you aren't going to do it. It's as simple as that. Whatever you have, you're going to have. Whatever you start with, you're going to have it forever.
Right.
You're not going to fix that thing. I mean, there are very little things, like eventually 8 years in, we, fixed some of the things, but what we had, like, you're not going to go back and put in a floor. You're not going to go back and put in a drain. You're not going to go back and do something with the walls, because by then it's always wet or always being used, or there's a better place to spend money or whatever it is. But like, so in a production space, you have to decide what the list of priorities are, and you have to have a limit of things that you're willing to not give up.
Okay.
Because if you don't do it, you're never going to do it. There's never a good time for it.
Right.
Once you're in the midst of production, you're just going to stop production and start it again. So we started with big tanks. We put 2 more tanks in afterwards, but we had already built out the space for them before we bought them.
Right. Right.
Because we knew that eventually we were going to get to that point.
You had an expectation set. Literally.
Correct.
Yeah.
Also, we had an expectation of what we're going to do here.
Yeah.
I'm only going to do a certain amount for my livelihood, for who I am, for how I feel about it.
All right, there's so much information that we just covered just in the concept of contract brewing, but let's travel back in time a little bit. And how did they even get started at Bierstadt?
Talk to me about this beautiful work of art behind you. It's 87 years old. Was 87 years old when you went and got it?
Yes. 1932.
Okay.
And we went and got it I went and looked at it arrived in 2014.
Okay.
So, 82 then?
Okay.
Yeah.
In the 80s, and you're like, we're going to go to Germany, we're going to pick this up, and we're going to bring traditional brewing into the Rhino district of Denver. Like, what's that connection to Germany?
Like, the brew house is made to make these traditional styles of beer, these lagers. Also, it's like got a crazy cool like history. It's got existed before World War II.
Right.
If you know anything about Germany in World War II,
Yeah.
a lot of these like did not make it. They scrapped a bunch of them for bullets and things like that. So
Sure.
the fact that it like exists
It's a big
still
deal.
pretty awesome. Also, there's some brewing benefits about copper.
Yeah.
And honestly, I can't divorce myself. It's like it's pretty fucking cool. Like there's something about brewing on a piece of history.
Absolutely.
It's not. That's not part of the equation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel if I were an ultimate antiquer or like American picker or something like, that's a prize gem right there.
The cool part is they actually continue to make beer. So they
Yeah.
got a brand new brew house.
Okay.
So we just took this 80-year-old guy and put it back here in Denver, Colorado.
How the heck did you get it back here? Like,
It's kind of actually like very rudimentary.
okay.
I went with my husband Bill and I went in 2014 to look at brew houses. We knew we were going to get a copper brew house.
Okay.
And when we did that, like the size of this one, there's all different sizes of them. Like some of them were like huge, like 100 hecto. Like we needed to find an appropriate size. Also, like some of them they've redone, so they've scraped the tops off them, put stainless underneath it. We didn't want that either.
Right.
So
That's what
I went
Coors
there,
did, right? Yeah.
That's what I mean. You know,
Most
the
people.
originals like Sierra Nevada,
Sure.
New Glarus, like a bunch of places did a similar Ballast Point, like did a bunch of these things earlier in the history. We're not the first people to do this
Right.
at all. So when we were looking at brew houses, it was like the size of it. So I went, we saw this one. This is one we thought was in really good working order. Some of them are like really rough shape.
Yeah.
Really rough shape.
Yeah.
And some of them also like it was too expensive because all these, unlike in the United States, for the most part, these things are built into the buildings. They're
Yeah.
part of the building. You have to
Right.
blow an entire side off of a building in order to get it out. And they were going to put a new brew house in, so we basically split the cost with that.
Okay.
They were going to put it in the brew house, and they had to do it anyways.
Right.
There was one of them that was really lovely, but they wanted to charge us like $100,000 to put, and they wanted it put back like brick by brick. They wanted to put
Come
back
out of here.
we wanted to put together like brick by brick, so it was going to be prohibitively expensive. So we
Sure.
went back in. My friend Betty and I went back in September of that same year. And we basically had to like just measure it and take a bunch of pictures.
Okay.
And then we hired a guy to like take it apart and crate it up in a box, and it just like came in a shipping container.
Okay, sure. Okay. Did you keep the shipping container too?
No, we got rid of
Okay.
that. We have some new ones now. You can buy them anywhere. It turns out.
Yeah.
But like this, actually, we had the top cut off of this one. We
Okay.
could put it back together.
Okay.
And then the other one came in its own special crate. They crated it separate, and it just like you've seen those boats.
Yeah.
There's just it just came over on a boat like that.
That's cool. I like that the vibe like transcends throughout the building, right? You've got your shipping containers, like you do have the antique look going on a lot. Literally everywhere we look around, like it's a really cool vibe.
Yeah, we took a lot of the stuff that was already in this building and like repurposed it.
What was it? Railroad warehouse? What was this building before?
Back in the day, so actually this building and the building next door to us were actually connected with a dock, and it was a printing press.
Oh,
So it
okay.
actually had like 6-inch like concrete floors, so we didn't have to like reinforce the concrete underneath,
Sure.
which is great.
It's already
That's
ready to
very
go.
expensive.
Yeah.
And then we built this mezzanine up here, but yeah, we
Okay.
took all like some of these things, we made them into tables, a big table over there.
Yep.
These, like that was old like drafting table type
Sure.
thing. Also will pinch your fingers if you sit there too long and play with it like everybody does. Including myself. Probably my favorite table though is some old fire doors that we turned
Yeah.
into tables. My business partner Chris Ribby, that's very much all him, honestly.
It's very cool.
I'm like, I don't know that I see the vision yet, but let's go with it. It turns out
That's great.
most of the time, we'll give it 100%.
Yeah.
But 80% of the time, pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but he got it. So
Okay, we know what you're thinking, and you might think that with all of this effort that they took to get this traditional brew house back from Germany, that their goals were to be the German brew house of Denver. But that might not just be the case Listen to what she has to say about it.
Honestly, these are just the beers that I want to make.
Okay.
And it is very
They're delicious.
traditional, but we don't call ourselves a German brewery. I know
Right,
it seems like we are,
right.
but we're not. I just want to make lager, only
Okay.
lager, 100%. I want to take, a very specific yeast, and I want to see what it can do, and I want to focus on one thing and learning as much about it as I possibly can. But
All right, let's go check out some tanks. This is gonna be. We'll have to have something. Oh yeah.
a little chaotic. I haven't put this piece of equipment into it.
What size is the copper kettle? How many hectoliters is that?
It's like 35 hectos, so 30 barrels or so.
Right. Okay. And then these are hundreds. Yeah. Okay. Where are we going?
Just get back here again.
Ah, this is a way better view.
This is a better view, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a mash kettle, so we mash in the kettle.
Okay.
And then that's the water time we boil in here. So the mill, and then where all the grist is up top there. And
Right.
then this is actually drag conveyor. So
Okay.
this is how we get malt into the kettle.
Right.
So when we brew triple batches, so 3 in a row.
Okay.
And it's like yesterday we started at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and then Teresa got done at about 11 today.
Wow.
So back to back to back. Yeah.
So it's a family affair as well.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
now that we have like some help with Phil and Teresa, it's way less work than it used to be. It used to just be my husband and I working all like 30 hours straight.
Right. Wow.
Now I go home at I usually get like a 2 or 3 hour break in the afternoon. I make dinner and bring it back here. He gets like a 5 hour break in the afternoon. I go home for good at like midnight. He comes home for good at like 4 a.m. And I get back here at 9.
And you're doing that
Once a week.
what? Oh, okay.
Not so bad.
Okay, so once a week, and then you're doing three brews.
3 turns at a time.
That's pretty efficient.
Very efficient.
Oh my gosh.
So as you're going to hear, it's not going to be just efficiency. That's her main goal here by any means whatsoever. For Ashleigh, it's really more about the lifestyle, and her passion is just going to ooze right out of her.
This is what I do for a living. I don't oftentimes find myself wondering why people are trying to like speed up the process so much. And like at the end of the day, I love being a brewer. Like I love making beer. Like that's all I want to do. If I die, I want this whole place to die. Like I want it to not exist if I don't exist. You know what I mean?
It burns down.
That's how much like I feel it. But like this is a cool opportunity to like be able to drink the beer that we made. And we're gonna use his exact lot of hops, hit the gravities the same way and everything, and use our processes. And now we'll actually have like a tangible thing that we can hold in 2 hands and actually have an intelligent discussion about the pros and cons, the development of flavor, what we can learn about it. And we're gonna use some hops that I know nothing about. Try to stay, finger on the pulse.
Sure, yeah.
But try to stay, trying to understand what I call them like the hype new kids, but it's not really like that. I don't believe that. But what they're doing, because I think that only makes me better at what I do. Because there's always something you can learn. There's a little tidbit you can learn of anything. And I love beer, and I love brewing. I like to learn about all the little things, even if I don't agree with some of them. But it's good to know why I believe the things I do about what I do.
Sure.
So
that sounds like if I were going to put purpose as a definition in a dictionary, I feel like that goes behind it.
That's good.
Pretty frankly.
All right, we're really fermenting here. That's my dad joke for the day. So this is where her conversation really starts to draw you in, and you see this glimpse of her obsession over the perfect beer.
Oh, does she get into where she gets her laser focused vision from?
Listen in.
Hey, if you really want to show people what kind of a brewer you are, you should make a beer that doesn't have any more than 3 malts, no more than 2 hops, and under 5.5%.
Hell yeah.
I keep it super simple.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just kind of like the perfectionist in me just kind of like that started to make sense. And then he kind of put me in charge of like taking care of fermentations, and I like to see how beer changed over time.
Sure.
And they're like this, like, oh, on day 3 it looks like this, on day 5 it looks like this, on day
Sure.
7, and that whole like taking like those little pieces started to become more exciting to me than
Yeah.
the actual like, how can we come up with a new recipe? Like the brewing of it and trying to get it
Yeah.
perfect. The fermentation, the taking care of it, like those started to become way more important to me. And
Sure.
packet lager and
Yeah.
pale lager mostly.
I mean, anything we're doing is we're doing right.
I want to be a,
You're
mile
crushing
deep
it.
and an inch wide.
So then with that, we decided to wander, move our discussion, and continue this tour as the looming architecture of Bierstadt Lagerhaus is kind of over us. And Ashleigh just guides us to the mash kettle. A beautiful view, by the way. We were only slightly lost. And here's where she really explains the scope of the operations taking place. And we get to see these ginormous 100-barrel fermentation tanks that really paint a picture of this sheer volume going on here.
Oh man.
So big hand dragger.
It's tangible. You know, I was gonna ask, like, if you have a level of automation that you're incorporating, but you're telling me you're doing 30 hours.
I mean, yeah, we have like little things,
Yeah.
but not really that much stuff. I mean, we're trying to automate some of the filtration. So
Sure.
that's why this is like in the middle.
Yeah.
Very annoying to me.
Can't just jump right in.
Everything here is purpose built, and this is just in my heading right now.
Yeah. Maybe you
The
could
door
hang
over
it.
there, that we just came out of.
Yeah, I saw the
is
panel.
extra. This is going in there
Okay.
when we get the new one. This
Okay.
is not our permanent guy.
Okay.
This is our unpermanent guy. So those 4 on the side and the back 2 are what we started with. Then those are all 100 hecto, and then these are 200 hecto. These two
are
closest
two.
to us, yeah.
Okay.
So they hold 6 batches of beer, and those hold 3 batches of beer.
And they're all full?
All but this first one.
Okay. Wow. Oh yeah. That's nice.
So just the fermentation cellar. So we spent about 2 weeks in here. Every last night. We sold some triple batches, some smoked pellets in there were released. Yeah.
How long will that one take? The smoked pellets?
I kind of just made it when I had a little bit of space. So it's actually like lagering in this guy, and it'll need
Okay.
to move to an actual lager tank eventually.
Right.
So I can filter it.
Okay.
So it's kind of just waiting in the wings for a time when I have nothing else. If I have like a week in a lager tank, then I don't have anything else in there.
Okay.
I'll just put that in there for a week, let it drop out the rest of the way. They can't filter out of these tanks, they can't hold enough pressure.
Okay.
So this can hold about a third of a bar. But
Okay.
other tanks can hold like a bar, which is about 14.8 psi.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll put it in an actual lager tank to filter it.
Okay.
So it's just gonna chill here, literally.
Literally chilling.
Literally chill here until it's ready
Right on.
for its final destination.
What? 6 more weeks?
Something like that. Yeah,
Ish.
whenever I got space.
Okay.
It's a bonus beer.
Okay.
It's like this fry in your
It's just
onion rings. All the cans.
all the cans.
I'm getting that siding. Look at these have big butts right here.
Yeah, big butts hanging out there. They were gonna put walls around it, and they were like, around $12,000, and we're like, cool.
Never
I'll be a wall there.
mind. Never mind.
Walls are neat, but not that neat.
Yeah, walls over here, perfect. Walls over there, none needed. Don't need that. I don't need that.
How far in advance do you have to put your orders in to wire
The
in?
warehouse that
Oh,
stock posted.
that makes
So,
sense.
and I have a contract,
Okay.
so I have like a burn rate
Yep.
that I have to meet.
That makes sense. Wow. You're like, we actually do have to produce. When I wanted to come over here anyway, yeah, some sort of. Where'd she go? Yeah, talk to us. Talk to
Cody
us.
made in Colorado.
Okay.
It's counter pressure, so basically all that means is it'll keep more of the carbonation in solution, and we can carbonate it much more. If you ever open up one of our cans, you'll notice it's very carbonated.
Yes.
Which is what I like it. Spicy, sparkly,
Yes.
sparkly.
Yes.
Carbonic acid, people forget, it's a very big ingredient in beer, and it can change the entire flavor of a beer. If a beer is too sweet, if you add more carbonic acid, it can cut that sweetness. The texture of it carries. Hefeweizen is always super highly carbonated. Saison, pills, that prickliness, especially try to emulate what we do on draft here. You pour it hard, it dissipates the carbonation right away.
So as we're savoring the flavors of this beautiful smoked Helles, just waiting in the wings to be tapped when it's convenient, when there's room, we're strolling around the rest of the brewery, listening to these stories about getting the place up and running, and learn more about Ashleigh's vision of how her life's work in a glass, and that's verbatim, those are her words. It really encapsulates that journey of relentless pursuit, right? Laser focus. It's a testament to what it truly means to be a part of this storied tapestry of American craft beer.
I don't even know if I want to see my part. That was so good.
So, counter pressure filler, and then goes to a little date coater. So, I'll date coat on the bottom of it. So, like this little thing. Fun fact: all the Helles cans have a Taylor Swift book.
They have a quote on the bottom.
Taylor Swift lyric or something on the bottom.
I'm sorry, I've never had your beer out of a can. Only.
Was I there in Tokyo and in Denver? Am I trying to go in Dublin? Absolutely.
Okay, so now out of left field, out of nowhere, turns out she's a huge Taylor Swift fan and even pays tribute with a quote on the bottom of her Helles cans.
Yes, and I'm even so honored. She was looking for the quote for the next cans that went out. I threw an idea out to her, and it is officially on the cans.
Gotta get one of those cans.
I know. I can't wait. I'm honored. I'm so excited.
Wow. You should be. It was excellent. Best day ever. Anyway, I'm my Monday canning day. I'll go with my Taylor. So this is Keontae. Can't call the Keons, but she's a diva, so. Very much into our pop. By we, I mean me.
So we'll story for another loop here, or rather she will. And I bet you never guess with this elaborate canning line that she never really wanted to can in the first place.
Story cracked me up so much, and it's so funny.
So we'll package about 2.5 of the small guys a month.
And that's still pretty new for you as well, right? Just 3-4 years now, right? I think I came across an article about putting it in a can. You're like, I didn't want to talk about that.
Yeah, I definitely said I'd never do that. Just never say never, I guess. Although there are certain things you can never say never. It was a very complex thing. I mean, obviously, we're like pandemic.
Yeah. You got to survive.
You know, pandemic.
It changed everything.
It changed everything, you know, and the thing though that about putting beer in a can, even though I said I didn't want to do it, because I still don't want to do it, is that it's not, there's nothing morally offensive to me about it. I didn't want to do it, but at the same time, like every beer that we had canned, even previous, and mobile canning before we had our own canning line, was still so much better than a crawler.
Sure.
Like even the worst canned beer is like twice as good as a crawler is.
Yeah.
I mean, I live a 3-minute walk from here, and I would fill my own crawler up at the bar and blow it down myself and get it to pop and put the lid and steam it all by myself. And I get home and I'd be like sad about it.
Oh,
and now I don't feel sad about the beer we're putting out. We bought a nice canning line that counter pressure fills so we can get the sparkly levels of carbonation that I like in the beer that we have.
Awesome.
And so, like, there's nothing morally offensive about it. There's more like as a brewer, I know what I'm good at. And that for me is something that I'm not good at, and I am not good at, like, coming out of my comfort zone for things. I like being good at things. It's just,
I get that.
It's that firstborn female child in me. It has to be good everything right away, or I
Sure.
don't want to do it.
Sure.
Feels like they have to take care of everything. So I just like, to me, like it's just it's just a way I don't think. Is mechanically like that. I'm not a tinkerer. I don't. I feel obviously comfortable in a brewer taking care of a pump seal or whatever. But tinkering with like a $250,000 piece of equipment, and like if I tinker it wrong, I could screw up all the seams, or like, you know, like that's just like not in me. I like to know exactly how to do it. Show me how to do it.
Seems nauseating.
Yeah, show me how to do it. Show me the steps I need to take. Teach me how to do it, and then I can solve problems after that. But I'm not just gonna be like, I wonder what this does. Like, I'm just not that guy.
Sure, sure.
I like a known quantity. I like to know how it works. I like to have.
So did you bring
steps.
somebody in then?
Yeah. So Phil.
Yeah. Okay.
He's so good at it.
Phil.
And I can
Thank
do
you,
it.
Phil. Yeah.
And I was doing it before we hired. We hired him, and I'm fine at it. But he's so much better at it than I am.
Okay, so this is where our tour crescendos into the magnificent beer hall of Bierstadt Lagerhaus. It is this vibrant, fun-filled hub that really mirrors the artistic spirit that is the Rhino Art District in Denver.
So much. Like I absolutely have always loved coming into Bierstadt. It's a flagship of where I bring family and friends when they come into town. I always love doing beer tours, but you gotta hit up Bierstadt. It's just so much fun. And exactly what you said, it's hitting this really beautiful, fun part of town, and they just are perfect. It's a great time. Love it. Love it.
Okay, then if you don't mind,
Well,
I love the beer hall, right? But where the heck were you like, let's put giant bags and giant beer pong? And
my business partner is a child.
Okay.
I love him.
Okay.
But he is
Okay.
maybe.
This is how big this is.
It is. It's harder to throw than you think it is. Too.
Yeah, I've definitely thrown it a couple times. From back there.
Hey,
All right. There you go.
it looked good on camera, guys.
It's good. I like it. Look good on camera. No, my
I love that.
partner's great. He runs all the front of house stuff and everything. Chris, did wrestling and like, which is bananas.
Yeah, I definitely want to get down for that. I
was
definitely
just coming early.
Okay.
Playing some games beforehand.
Yeah.
Go get some food or eat, and then it's just
Chaos.
it's pure chaos.
Nice.
In like the most chaotic way there is.
Yeah.
It is. Last time I took a picture from up there.
Okay.
And like it was not as it was every single
packed.
spot was packed. There was like 600 people down there.
Okay, and last but not least, where would our interview be if we didn't put in our classic fun-filled question? So we asked, if you could be any beer in the world, what beer would you be?
I think really I feel a little silly asking this, but because I kind of want to assume that I already know the answer, but if you could be any beer in the world, what beer would you be?
Ooh, it's harder than you might think, I think.
Okay.
Okay, you should probably know I'm a homer.
Okay. So Duff? Or you're a poet?
Man, I believe it. My favorite. So it's hard because I have two favorite beers, and I love them equally, and I love them for different reasons. And they're my Helles and Pils.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I love them both for different reasons. You know, Helles is like my baby. Helles is like the thing. When we got here, my partner had, this Pils recipe that he's been working on for 20 years.
Wow.
And we made some tweaks to it, but not really, nothing really. Little tiny process bitlets, not really anything different about the beer.
Okay.
Little tiny malts, differences, different, like just little tiny tweaks here and there. But like Helles has been like the thing since the very beginning that I had never made one before.
Okay.
And we're gonna make a Helles. So we went and drank all the Helleses in Germany, and I read everything and been tweaking it ever since. But it's essentially the same as when we started.
Okay.
And so
That's awesome.
but I think slow pour Pils is. When Bill and I opened up this spot, one of our goals was to change the way beer was poured in the United States. That was a stated goal of ours from the very beginning. And I think that we haven't achieved as much as I'd like to think we have, because you still can go places and see just the worst. Yeah, scum of foam and dirty glass and dirty lines, all these things. We haven't gotten that far yet, but I feel like that part of that has happened. I see people using stemmed glassware for their clothes. I see people using Lucre faucets on their lagers. I see people doing things, and we're lucky enough to be in Colorado, and we have GABF, and we have all these things, and so it makes so a lot of people come here and see that. But I think for them to come here year after year after year and see that every single year and every single time you get a beer here, it's the same and it's poured the same with the same care and the same everything. Then hopefully that's like inspiring to them, and again, it's been one of our stated goals from the beginning. So, in some ways, that our beer be pills, because I want to change. I want to change the industry. That's what I want to do. I want to change the industry. I want to be part of the history of craft beer in the United States.
Oh yeah.
So
And you've achieved that.
I don't know if I'm there yet, but I'm still working on it, and I still,
Top 20.
This is my life's goal. It's my life's work in a glass. And that's all I've got. So.
Well, we appreciate it. Prost to that.